So I think most of the people are here. So welcome everybody to our Inclusive Hiring Works discussion. I will let the speakers introduce themselves. So there's Brenna, our RWA labor market facilitator.
Hello.
And Chris and Deandra from ARC, they're our employment coordinators.
Hi.
Hi.
And Nelson and Lindsay will be our special guest speakers today from Regina Downtown Business Improvement District.
Hello, everyone.
Today basically we will try to cover as much as we can. I'm hoping that we'll have enough time to do that, but just an outline of what we're going to be talking about today. We'll have some speakers and organization who, before the end of the Zoom chat today, we'll talk about how they've been able to harness the skills and knowledge of individuals with disability, work with them. And before then, we will delve into talking about inclusive hiring. What does it really mean to hire inclusively? And we have a fantastic star who will talk about that. So that we'll talk about also the word autism. What does it really mean? How can we better explain what autism means and be able to talk about, relate that to individuals working with autism and how best to support them? And of course, that will lead us to the idea of trying to demystify as much as we can what the word autism means and what it does not mean, particularly what it does not mean. And we'll also talk about the support, the robust support we have for employers, particularly those that kind of struggle with the idea of providing support to individuals with autism, working with them. Before the end, we have some really good guest speakers today who will provide some good examples about how much they've been able to work with individuals with autism and harness their best potentials in them. Yeah, and of course, I'll be followed with some question and answer section.
Perfect. So before we begin, we just wanted to really briefly introduce ourselves as, so you know who is telling you about inclusive hiring. So Chris and I are both from the Autism Resource Center. Basically, our center works with adults who have autism if they're in between the ages of 18 to 35. And we just run a whole bunch of different programs that can help them in various areas of their life. So that could be mental health, physical health, cooking, independent living, and of course, employment, which is what Chris and I do. Chris, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've said that all actually. I think just to add something to the employment side, we'll spend more time talking about the ideal, the kind of support we have for these individuals and how much they've been able to be successful at work because of the support they get. So, yeah.
And I'm just going to take over. I'm Brenna Stephenson, and I work out of the Autism Resource Center here in Regina, but I am working on a federally funded contract called Ready, Willing, and Able. We are across Canada in every province and territory, and we focus more on supporting the employer side of the inclusive hiring kind of process. I work with a few agencies in the city that have individuals that are looking for employment, with ARC being kind of my main agency partner in the city. So I work with employers to hire individuals with autism spectrum disorder or intellectual disabilities. So I'm going to talk kind of briefly about inclusive hiring and this quote, diversity is counting people and inclusion is making people count. So a number of the businesses that I work with have diversity and inclusion strategies. And so they aim to build up their workforce with a variety of individuals experiencing a variety of disabilities. And so I work with them to help them understand that that they can count numbers and quantify diversity within the workplace, but to really have inclusion is to have those people making a significant impact within the workplace and changing the way that businesses operate. So inclusive hiring brings, as you can kind of see on the screen, brings a diverse pool of employees with a variety of skills and abilities. And for businesses that are hiring individuals with autism or intellectual disabilities, you will quickly learn that there is a lot of variety between individuals, as there is with all of us. And so being able to really leverage and utilize an individual's skills and talents and be able to build up your business provides you with a bit of that competitive advantage that a lot of businesses are looking for. They're wanting to kind of be innovative and forward thinking and do something maybe that other businesses aren't doing to set them apart. And through my experience, which is several years of inclusive hiring, I have found that hiring individuals experiencing disability provides just that for employers. And it represents the community that you're serving. So individuals come in and they see themselves in the employees that are serving them. The challenge for employers is, well, I mean, right now, COVID is a huge challenge for employers. And so it's creating a lot of financial stress for businesses and that hiring process. But I mean, kind of at all times, one of the big things is turnover and absenteeism and the cost of replacing staff. And so the labor pool is continually changing for businesses and is something that they're learning to navigate. And so I work with businesses to help fill those those vacancies that they have within the business with qualified candidates that are proven to be good employees and have proven to really benefit the businesses that they've been hired into. So working with employers, one of my main things is the education piece to help them understand the abilities that individuals bring and to look past the barriers that new hires may be experiencing. Challenge for job seekers. So only 1 in 4 individuals with autism or an intellectual disability are currently employed. That's an unemployment rate of over 75%. And so if that was any other demographic, there would be national outcry, and rightfully so. And so the program Ready, Willing, and Able has been created to address that. Our hope is to bring the representation in the workforce kind of on par with other groups. So yeah. The average, I was reading some articles the last few weeks, and the average cost of turnover for a business is about $18,000 per person, which was kind of surprising, but at the same time goes into all the training and onboarding and lost productivity if they have to fill positions. So being able to find candidates that can do the job well and are committed to that employer, which is often individuals on the autism spectrum or with intellectual disabilities, really gives employers the confidence and kind of the reassurance that they're hopefully not going to be going through this turnover that often occurs. There's some stats kind of on the right hand side, as you'll see there. I'm not going to go through those specifically, but if as an employer you are interested, or even as a person interested in learning more of the business stats on inclusive hiring, I have plenty to show how it really does revolutionize a business and can really kind of make it stand apart from the other businesses within the community.
Awesome. Thank you for that nice little introduction on inclusive hiring, Brenna. Next, Chris and I are going to just very briefly talk about autism. So while this presentation isn't necessarily about autism, we're obviously a little biased because we work with autistic adults and think that they're really great employees. So, so some of the challenges that some of our members can face might be with social communication or executive functioning, which is like the memory and planning part of the brain. They also might have some sensory difficulties that might need accommodation in the workplace. And sometimes there's unique behaviors that come along with them as well. So there are a few challenges that come with hiring someone with autism, but we've noticed that there are so many more benefits too. So some of their strongest professional qualities are that they're reliable and loyal. Like once they get a job, they're not gonna go anywhere. They're gonna stick it out with you for a long time. They're also visual learners, which can make it a lot easier for them to learn the job or to even like train someone else further down the line. They usually have really strong memory too. So once they're given that initial investment of time to properly learn the job, they're gonna remember it for a very long time. And they also like to follow structure and routine. So as soon as that structure and routine is set up, there's not much you have to do to help them after that. And another strength they have is that they work with precision too. So a lot of our members have a strong attention to detail and often won't move on from that task until it's perfect. So that's a nice quality as well. Chris, do you want to talk about the numbers?
Oh, for sure. And I'm just going to relate these numbers a bit to what the other speaker talked about before, Brenna. If we look at this, we realize like 10 years ago, 1 in every 150 Canadians had autism. But today, it seems the number has really decreased a bit, meaning that 1 in every 66 people have autism. But one thing we noticed so far is this has not really translated in an increase of individuals with disability, particularly autism, to employment. I mean, as we can see here, over 795,000 of working age Canadians with disabilities are not working. And this does not necessarily mean they don't have the skills. It doesn't even mean they don't have the knowledge or education to do the job, but it kind of goes on to expose the disparity between individual with disability and an average person in the workforce. So, I mean, 1 in 4 people with intellectual disability are employed. That's why that seems to be, I wouldn't call that a progress, but it seems that there's a lot more we need to do to ensure that individuals with disability, whether autism or all kinds of disability, have a place at the table. They need to be granted an equal opportunity to show their skills, because they do have that, but most times employers really have failed to realize that.
And just really quickly, we want to talk about our job seekers as like a general group of people. So there are a lot of common like shared interests and experiences that our members have. So of course, areas like computer and technology, video games, our members tend to want to work in those fields. But then there's also people who love like writing and art and graphic design and social media and history. And yeah, it's just a really wide range of interests that our folks have, which is really nice to work with a group of people like that. And yeah, Chris can talk about our current members. These are just rough numbers too, but these are the like, it's a breakdown of who we're working with right now. So.
Exactly. Thank you, Deandra. That as we can see here, currently we have about 30 employed members, individuals with autism, who are actively engaged in various workplaces. And of course, they still receive the required support. Some of them receive like daily support that to help them navigate everyday challenges at the workplace. Later on, we'll talk about the strategies we use in providing that support. But also we have other ones who are still in the process of getting a job, and they're receiving all the broad range of support we have to ensure that they, from the point of coming to us, with the idea of employment, making sure that the resumes are ready, cover letters are ready, the applications are sent. We provide them with us support they need, and we are really thankful to a lot of inclusive champions we have here. Really fantastic employers, as we have one of them here today, that really speaks to the fact that yes, we can give that opportunity to these individuals, and they've got so much to offer. I mean, the next video will actually show us how much individuals with disability can be very active in the workplace.
Nice segue, Chris. I'll play our video now. Oh, it's thinking. There we go.
I usually do is sweep around, vacuum. I think I like to take out trash because that's my favorite thing is to do. Get all my extra work done and get all my tasks done.
I love the different perspective and the energy that Brandon brings to the day.
Brandon brings a great positive energy to our office.
Someone on the spectrum like Brandon's just really nice. It just gives you another outlook. He's always in a positive mood.
Since starting at Biometrics, Brandon has really blossomed. He's much more social. He's much more willing to try out new things in work and outside of work.
Actually, what I learned though was just not to be as a very shy person, which sometimes I really am.
Autism Works is a comprehensive program that supports young people on the autism spectrum to transition into the workplace.
When we first had Brandon hired, we had him and someone from ARC come in, and we kind of discussed what being on the spectrum means and, different interactions you need to have with them. And I think that really prepped people not only to hear the training, but also to hear from Brandon himself as well.
Autism can be a really loaded word, and so we want to make sure that everyone that's inviting this new employee is really comfortable with what their needs are and the really simple accommodations that might be required for them.
I think ARC puts a lot of the groundwork in place to kind of identify ahead of time what is it that interests, these people that they're working with, and so you can find the right fit. So then as an employer, you can be 100% confident that you're getting someone who is going to be engaged.
I'd invite any employer that's considering inclusive hiring to reach out to the Autism Resource Center. We have a pool of candidates interested in all types of jobs. Our services are provided for free to make sure that everyone is really supported and understanding.
Definitely recommend other companies to get in touch with ARC and really look into this and see if it's something that they can help foster and add to their company.
When employers reach out to us looking to maybe hire somebody on the autism spectrum, they're always pleasantly surprised at the results that they find.
It's really the favorite part of my job is hearing how successful someone is in the workplace.
Just making my bosses proud and just make them happy too every day.
So that was Brandon, super sweet guy. We love showing that video. Oh, I'm just stuck in this screen. Sorry, give me a second here. I can't get out. There we go. There we go. Okay. So next up, we're going to talk about a few common myths that we still hear, unfortunately, when we connect with some employers or even just, the general public. Some people still have some maybe like older perspectives that we're just trying to use, education and advocacy to help change their minds and spread the word. So a lot of times people think that if you hire someone with a disability, it means you have to make a whole bunch of accommodations and that they're going to be super expensive too. So Brenna, I'm not sure if you're still there or not, but what was the common amount that an accommodation usually is? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, so 57% of accommodations cost nothing, and 37% are a one-time cost of $500 or less. So a very, very minor percentage cost over $500. And if you connect through RWA, kind of through ARC that way, then we are able to provide funding to cover the cost of any of those. So RWA strives to make it at no expense to the employer. Yeah, but yes, it's very minimal.
Yes. Thank you, Brenna. I would never remember those numbers, so I'm glad you're here.
I've quoted them a few times.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Awesome. So yes, accommodations are usually free. Even Chris is going to talk about some workplace strategies that could be considered accommodations too, but they tend to just work really well for the team as a whole. So we'll talk about that more later on. Usually people say that people with disabilities might not be great employees for whatever reasons. We won't get into them, but like we had said before, they have these really strong qualities as a person with autism that tend to benefit them in employment. So the loyalty, the dedication, the reliability, like our members are so punctual, and I wish that I could learn a lesson from them on how to show up on time for everything. It's wonderful. So yeah, really, really, really strong professional strengths come from just having autism. So yeah. And some other people think like, oh, well, my workplace doesn't really have any good jobs for people with disabilities. So I know Brenna's very passionate about this, and she talks about it a lot, that we don't want to like necessarily like carve out a job specifically for someone with a disability, because we feel like they're totally able to work in any position that's available. Where they might need some accommodations, I feel like a lot of people would need an accommodation anyway. So yeah, and like I said earlier too, there's a huge, huge range of interests that our folks have, like the employment team that we work with. So I think I've said this before too, like just how autism is on a spectrum, I think that their employment interests are kind of also on a spectrum. It totally depends on the person that you're working with. Yeah, I think any workplace could benefit from hiring someone, but yeah. Also, the last thing I like to talk about is the curb cut effect. So this is what happens when, so for example, when they created that little curb cut that Nelson was actually talking about earlier today on the edge of the street, they created that for people with wheelchairs, just to help them have access to the sidewalks. So the curb cut effect is something that also benefits other people while accommodating someone with a disability. So now mothers with strollers can use the curb cut. Seniors using their walkers can use the curb cut. Maybe like kids riding their bikes, they can use the curb cut. So even though these accommodations might be made for people with a disability, they tend to just really, really benefit the general population anyway. So yeah. Okay, I'm done rambling now. Go ahead, Chris.
Rambling, come on. Okay, now this is one area most employers seems to be way too scared. I wouldn't say scared of, but really worried about the idea of having an individual with disability in the workplace. Can we be able to manage? Can we cope? What kind of support do they need? How do we deal with that? And surprisingly, just like Brenna and Deandra stated now, it visually came out. They visually come at no cost to you. Particularly now, we have the Ready, Winning, and Able program that tends to provide those support that it maybe involves some spending some money. They are always there to ensure that they're there to support. But before that, there are some really very basic support we can provide individuals to ensure they are very effective, which doesn't really involve, doesn't cost any money. We talked about language. Many of us sometimes can respond to very implied instruction without really hitting the nail on the head. But if you're dealing with if you're working with an individual that has autism, you've got to learn to call a spade, meaning that they want to have the instruction just the way it is. And that is exactly how they will follow the instruction to the letter. But if we're not able to really utilize, understand that, yes, this is how an individual with autism process thoughts, process instructions, then we might run into a problem. So the idea of being very specific, concise, and clear with your instruction, it makes a lot of difference. And again, not just about instruction, that also translates to when we are creating visuals for them. And when I mean visual, I mean there are some tasks we know every day that these are the things we're supposed to do. We don't need anybody to write that down for us. We know the expectation of us every day. But again, working with individuals with autism, there's need to have that structure. There's need to have to say, okay, maybe drawing like a visual task plan, that these are the expectations you have for the day. One has to be done first, second has to be followed down to the end of work. And you know what? That is where the employment coordinators with Autism Resource Center comes in. We can support employers to draw this kind of task plan to ensure that these individuals follow the rules, follow their routine every day. Because with that, the focus on harnessing their best, not making sure that are following all the critical meeting expectations. And again, one of the things we talk about is transition. We have to we also make it very specific that individual with autism requires some level of instruction. There are certain ways they move from one job to the other. Sometimes it might require advanced notice. We might not call it warning, but it might require advanced notice that, look, okay, for the next week or next 2 weeks, this is what we would probably be doing. And again, one of the things I want to mention before we move to the next one is the idea of accommodation. Gendra has spoken to that. I've spoken to that already. But accommodation could also mean something as little as giving an individual with autism some very short breaks. Maybe before the lunch break, they might require five minutes or 10 minutes breaks to kind of cool off, get back to their routine and continue to be more productive without getting overwhelmed. And again, the sensory side of it is actually very important. I mean, I can work in 5,000 watts lights. I don't care the kind of effect on me, but I'm good with that. But an individual with autism perhaps might need a very quiet environment, might not need that kind of lots of light flashing to him or her in the office. And even for those coming from the computer screen, just buying the screen protector is even enough for them. So we realize that noise from around our work environment can make a very strong impact for them, for such individuals. Having some noise canceling headphones, again, does the magic. So I think the most important thing for us when it comes to employers and support is asking the right questions. Because at ARC, I would say, even if we don't have all the answers, we have the right answers that can potentially help this individual to succeed. Again, even if it involves when it has to spend money, it doesn't ever exceed one-time $500 spending. And we have already been able to do that for us. Yeah. So don't be scared of the accommodation. Don't be scared of the support they need. We are here to provide that support, and you can always count on us.
Perfect. So that's actually what we're going to talk about next is supports for inclusive employers. So again, I'm a little biased, but I think one of the most important supports available is having a job coach there with the person that you hire who has autism or some intellectual disability. The job coach is there to help enforce all of those workplace strategies that Chris just talked about. We can also help model maybe more appropriate social behavior in the workplace, or we could help, deal with some minor issue that comes up right away so it doesn't snowball into a bigger issue. And that, again, all of that support is provided for free. So yeah. And then there's also Brenna's support too through her program.
Yeah, so RWA can provide support for job coaching if you need it, any sort of workplace gear that may be required for an individual, if there's any accommodations that need to be made. And I would quickly add to just challenge employers to think of, if there's one bright side from COVID, it has forced every employer to make accommodations in order for their business to continue. And so businesses have been able to quickly adapt to needing to instill some sort of accommodations for their employees and for their customers. And so this, I mean, making accommodation for somebody with autism is really no different. It's actually probably much easier because you have people supporting you doing that. So yeah, but anything that an employer needs in regards to hiring and having somebody be successful at work is available through the RWA program.
Yeah, talking about the inclusive champion we mentioned before, I mean, from the slide we have here now, we can realize that we have lots of employers here in Regina that are really partnering with, I mean, actively partnering with us, employing individual with other kinds of disability. We have from Saxtel to Icometric to the city of Regina, and so many of the employers who has employed and retain our members. And I mean, we are using this opportunity also to reach out to all employers in Regina that have not really partnered with us, maybe scared of what it means to employ individuals with disability. Hey, there is no need to be scared, because they can be as active as us once the right support are provided to them. And the right support will always be provided to them. What is important is that they have that equal opportunity, just like the rest of us. Now, do you want to be an inclusive champion? Get in touch.
Awesome. And one of our, I'm not going to say best, one of our most active and most engaged inclusive champions is actually RD Bid. That's why we asked them to join us today to give a little bit of an employer perspective. We've been working with Nelson and Lindsay for a very long time, and they've hired a lot of our folks. And they really do understand that true meaning of inclusion instead of diversity, like Brenna had said earlier. So whenever you guys are ready, feel free to share your employer perspective.
Sure. Thanks, Deandra. And I'd just like to say, if anyone out there is, on the fence, considering hiring someone from the Autism Resource Center, please get in touch with them. It's been a great opportunity to have over the years. I think we've been at this for 3 years, I believe, and we've had about 6 different individuals through the work program we offer in the summer and stuff. And like Deandra and Chris and Brenna and stuff was all saying, they're very reliable. Like, they're never late. Like, it's, if they're late, you actually worry if they don't show up, right? So over the years, I've only had 2 people, they were late, and they showed up, they let me know why they were late, and they're the best employees. Like I said, they were just very apologetic and everything like that. So yeah, just what else can I say? I mean, I treat them just like anyone else that I would have on my team, and they can do, I think I've thrown on absolutely everything at them: pressure washing, picking garbage, removing graffiti, picking up needles. And there's never been an issue with
event stuff.
Yes, event stuff. I'll let Lindsay talk here in a minute there if she's got some stuff to fill in about her events. But once again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but please consider hiring someone from the Autism Resource Center. Like, you won't be disappointed.
Thanks,
Lindsay, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just give an example of an experience that we had. So I'm visitor services manager, so I usually deal with free public programming. So really public facing side of BID. We interact with people, businesses, community organizations, every day pre-COVID. And I had someone from ARC on my team last year. It was a slightly different situation just because the person did not want to identify within the organization, which was totally fine with us, again, up to that individual. But because of that, some of the supports needed to be a little bit more discreet. And initially, we didn't really provide the person with any support as they didn't express that they needed any. And then we found out they did need some. So we had a meeting, we kind of discussed what that would be, and that was more of an individual visual task list rather than like the public one that's just posted for everyone, meaning that person would have to go and stand, look at the task list, maybe write notes, and then, which they weren't doing for obvious reasons, because then you're being set apart from someone else. So what we ended up doing was making kind of a mini booklet of like, you know, yoga is in section B, and these are all the things that you need for yoga, which we, again, had already had, but it was public, it was large, and you would have to go up to it and look at it. And we kind of make the assumption that our team's just going to memorize it. And that's what we've been doing. I mean, this is my 4th summer here, and we've been doing that this whole time. So we made a mini version of that you can kind of have in your fanny pack, which the entire team uses. And after providing that to the whole team, you know, we just kind of said, hey, we're going to do this. We think it might be easier for you folks if you just have something quick you can grab, or if someone asks, like, what is section B or where is yoga? You can tell them immediately. And we had someone who was actually the team lead who had worked for us the year before, who was not from ARC, come up to us and say, wow, this is great. Like, this is helping everyone. I wish I had this last year. So that curbside effect, which I'd never even heard of, was going to be my exact, I'm giving this example prior to hearing that, is that support ended up helping our entire team, and will be, I mean, we didn't have stuff this year, but that is now in the process of what we will provide our team with. Because it's kind of silly just to assume people are going to do it once and remember it, even though we've been operating that way for however many years. Now I know that that's probably been causing some stress to our staff, who were like, oh no, I have to remember this. Now I got to go run back and look at that paper because I can't remember, and I have to leave my coworker. You know, it just snowballed that whole thing. And so from that small support really just helped our entire team. And I will also mention, I know it's not employee based, but we did have ARC volunteers at various events as well, for people just getting into stuff or have never had any experience, and just getting them used to that kind of environment. And we've had nothing but amazing things. It's improved my ability to complete the job. We're doing setups for events in 45 minutes, and it used to take us 3 hours. So anyone saying that someone's not able, or a specific style of job is what someone should do, none of that has been our experience here. You know, we've had people working in concession, we've had people setting up and taking down events, we've had clean team members, we've had info team members. I know someone who's working at warehouse, who's in the office, who was a prior volunteer for cinema, Under the Stars, which was one of the free events. So yeah, any style of job is totally within their capabilities. And ARC has been great at, you know, if we do need a meeting, or we do just have you folks in just to tell us about autism anyway, because it's good for our staff to know how to interact with people in general on the street. So yeah, that's one of our star employees here. I mean, he did great. He was spraying everybody with hand sanitizer and setting up and taking down farmers market, and always the first one to, especially with COVID and the radical changes we've all had to do, just throwing constant changes, which may be something that's not ideal for anyone. He specifically, Anthony's been great, had no issues with changing things up, or being on board to come in on a day where he didn't know he was going to come in. And yeah, and he's been with us for 2 years, so nothing but good things. And that's not just ARC. I mean, we've only worked with ARC, but at this point we would have no you know, reservations. And I think sometimes that barrier is the thought of support means I'm going to have to do more work, which maybe initially makes sense, but after you provide that, it's actually less work for you because everyone's more successful. And yeah, it's been great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lindsay.
It's so nice to hear, like, the stuff that we preach at people is actually true in real life. Like the curb cut effect, the whole, you know, investing in the beginning and then it pays off afterwards because you don't have to do much after. Yeah, that's really cool to hear. So yeah, thank you guys.
I'm just gonna quickly jump in here.
Yeah.
It's probably another topic for another day, but when we had some of them come in and volunteer for us, I think that's a really good opportunity to find out what type of workers they are and stuff like that. Because I ended up hiring one actually that came out to volunteer. I hired him to be part of my clean team for the rest of the summer because I was just so impressed of how he was following instructions, you know, he was getting the work done, everything. So for anyone out there, if you're still, you know, considering, maybe look at an opportunity to bring in some volunteers for a little project and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and Lindsay, you mentioned that too, even though it wasn't employment related specifically, that volunteer opportunity with RD Bid has helped so many of our folks down the line. Like that one directly, he got hired basically on the spot, which was amazing. But now they were able to, you know, kind of fluff up their resumes with some nice, fresh experience. They learned a whole bunch of new skills while volunteering. And I'm positive that that has led to employment for those folks who were there. So yeah. So thank you guys for being like an awesome inclusive champion. We really appreciate it. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So now we're just going to do a really quick little wrap up before we do our Q&A session. So yeah, just to summarize really quick, Chris is going to go over these topics that we hope you'll take away from today.
Thank you, Deandra. I'm glad we're keeping to time. Just a quick wrap up to talk about what exactly we have in this conversation for today. We want to get it out there for employers particularly to know that yes, ACT as an agency provides support to individuals with autism, not just to those individuals, but also to the employers. So there shouldn't be any kind of worry about if they will receive the support. And again, we have Ready, Willing, and Able that are also come into play here to make sure that the broad range of support that are needed by these individuals are available. So, I mean, at this point, employers shouldn't really be worried about whether this individual will be fully supported, but should just, you know, key into that belief that everybody deserves equal opportunity in the labor force. Again, we talked about accommodation. It's almost free. And where it's not free, the staff with Autism Resource Center are also there to provide the support needed. And even when it involves money, like we mentioned that before, RWA is also there to provide the support. So at the end of the day, as an employer, you're not losing anything. You're basically contributing to I would say community development, making sure that everybody in the community, regardless of your disability, is given equal opportunity. And of course, with your help, the number we mentioned before, 795,000 individuals with disability that are now working, that have the knowledge, have the skills. With your help, the number will, one step at a time, the number will be greatly reduced. Because again, the idea is not just about making sure the numbers are reduced only, but having that watchword of equality, equity, everybody deserves equal opportunity and they should have it. Because there's a high demand of inclusive hiring for employees and employers and the community as a whole. And as employers, if we don't know how to reach out to this to individuals with disability, we can help. We are here to help. We are here to support you, making sure you reach out to this demographic. And once you get in touch with us, we'll definitely provide you as an employer with all kinds of support you need for the individual to be successful, taking off the stress from you as the employer.
Awesome. All right. So it's time for our Q&A session. We had started a little bit late, so I think we might have, 5 to 10 minutes for questions and answers. we don't have a huge group of folks here, but were there any questions that had come up during our presentation? We'd love to answer them.
Hi, I have a question. It's Gayleen Geno calling. I have a daughter on the spectrum, and we are on the wait list for the ARC job program. So I'm just curious as to whether that program is getting started again, and kind of what your timelines are for, you know, getting things rolling again.
Sure. Stacy, would you want to take this one with the whole wait list part of it anyway?
Sure. But things have been a little bit different given that we haven't been running in-person programs due to the pandemic and that kind of thing. So we have had a bit of a backlog of people on the wait list, but we are hoping in the next couple of months to bring in a new employment person and start getting some people off that wait list and back into our programs. We are also starting to run some of our other programs as well. In the next couple months, we'll have Chill and Connect starting. The volunteer group, I think, is looking for opportunities to volunteer again. So as soon as we can get that running again, that'll be going. It's kind of hard to find people looking for volunteers at the moment, given a lot of people are shut down or don't want big groups of people in the workplace. So we're slowly working on it. I don't have any firm numbers, but we do have a plan to start getting the ball rolling as soon as we get some pieces in place first.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for taking that, Stacy. Are there any questions from anyone else? Okay.
I will just say, Deandra, if you don't mind me just jumping in, if I know it's being recorded, if people would want to reach out to us and ask us more questions or something, I mean, of course, you guys are the main resources, you're the experts, but if anyone's interested in just calling us and asking us again, you know, more experiences or how we feel, I'm very open to talking about our experience and more than willing to have people reach out to us. So that's not an issue. If you need to connect us with people or vice versa, we always tell people about you folks, but I think both Nelson and I are pretty open to, if people have questions after this recording and would like to talk to someone, we're more than welcome to, you know, have a chat with people or whatever.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for offering that. It's kind of strange because everything is virtual right now, whereas, you know, in person we might be able to have more of an interactive Q&A discussion. But for sure, if there's folks watching this after and they would like to contact you, we can definitely connect them with you. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Okay, I think that's it. Hey, Stacy, any questions come through the chat or anything?
I think that is it for now. Thank you guys so much for all that wonderful information.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys for joining. And oh, we're going to be sending out some handouts and the recorded presentation after this too. So it has all of our contact info on there, and we'd really love to connect to you guys and sort of build our inclusive champion network even more. So.
Thanks for having us.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.